As early voting now gets underway in 3 more states today, Hillary Clinton is maintaining her overall lead. The latest NBC News SurveyMonkey poll shows this: the Democratic nominee up on her Republican rival, Donald Trump, by 5 points nationally, 46 to 41%. Now, this comes just one day after another national poll saw Clinton winning by a much larger margin, 50 to 38%, as you see there. Now, with 14 days to Election Day, all eyes are on the battleground states where some polling predicts a tighter competition perhaps than those polls suggest. I want to send it now to CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto with a breakdown of each candidate's paths to victory. Anthony, I leave it to you and your fancy big board.
Well, thanks, Josh. Look, let's start with the most obvious path. We know it's often comes down to Florida. Hillary Clinton has a very slight lead there, and early voting has already started in Florida. So let's suppose Donald Trump can actually win Florida. If he does, remember that that's not enough, right? So if he can flip that back, he could get to, let's say, 220 electoral votes. What he's got to do is go into Ohio and win there. And he's got to win North Carolina and take that. Those are the most obvious places he can go, but even that won't get him there. He's still got to go and get, let's say, a Pennsylvania, a big blue state with a lot of electoral votes to get himself over the top. That's a tough path, but that's probably his most efficient one, Josh.
Florida, where both candidates are today. In fact, Donald Trump will be spending a third consecutive day in what he calls his second home. Look, I realize his math, as you've made it clear now for weeks, is exceedingly tough. Is it possible without Florida?
Well, he's going to have to do a lot elsewhere if he doesn't get it. So let's give Florida over to Hillary Clinton. Well, in that case, if he does win Ohio and he does win in Pennsylvania, he might take an upper Midwest path, for example, if he can win a Michigan or win a Wisconsin. That seems unlikely given the polling there, but that's one possibility. The other thing you could see is if he can win a Wisconsin and then win, let's say, Iowa with its 6 electoral votes and then win Colorado, he gets into a tie, in which case maybe Nevada would come down and swing it if he pulls off Nevada too. So what you see is if he does not win Florida and he does okay elsewhere, he's still got to get a bigger combination of states to do that. And, you know, the way these states profile, where he's underperforming with a lot of Republicans, a lot of white college-educated Republicans, you might expect them to move more in tandem than for him to be able to go through and cherry-pick just a couple.
Meanwhile, Anthony, we have seen Hillary Clinton overperform in states that Democrats in election cycles past had no reason to believe they would ever get. States like Arizona, states like Georgia. Even a state like Texas, where Hillary Clinton in one major poll is now within the margin of error. In Texas, what do you make of these historically red states that could turn blue?
Yeah, well, Texas is a really interesting story because while I don't think Hillary Clinton is in a position to win Texas outright, she's doing about as well right now as a Democrat can possibly do. She's helped by a large Hispanic vote that's voting for her. And Trump is underperforming there with white men, white college-educated women in particular. He's not doing as well as Republicans typically do, and that's made the state a lot closer. That's a pattern we see repeated in a lot of other states. It's one of the reasons why then Arizona, Georgia also look a lot closer. Look, if Hillary Clinton should manage to flip one of those states, then she'd be really in a strong position. She may not be quite there yet, but the fact that they're competitive tells you just how this map is shifting, really more Democratic as we get south, and still possibly Republican up in the north in the upper Midwest, Josh.
Well, and while Hillary Clinton herself might not admit it, it would certainly seem to a degree that the campaign is treating Donald Trump as something of a defeated opponent right now, as it looks to perhaps pour more money and focus onto down ballot races, specifically in Pennsylvania, where she has taken aim at a vulnerable senator in Pat Toomey, in New Hampshire, where Senator Kelly Ayotte is in a race for her political life right now. Which races are being impacted the most then by this electoral map?
Yeah, a lot of them. But so far, what we have seen is Republican voters saying they feel like their Senate candidate is a, quote, different kind of Republican than Donald Trump. His brand is almost a brand unto itself. So what Republicans are worried about is that if turnout goes down among Republicans, then that shaves off some of the vote that would typically go to a Republican Senate candidate. So while in the polls, most of those Republican Senate candidates are running even or ahead of their Democratic opponents, if people don't show up because they're not showing up for the presidential ticket, then that's going to come off their margins as well. That's what they're worried about. So you look at a place like Pennsylvania, you mentioned a good one, that is a neck and neck race. You know, in Florida, Marco Rubio running for his Senate seat, he's been up. He's up 2 points in our latest poll, but that's tight. That's tighter than he had been a couple of weeks ago. And New Hampshire is another good one. That one I expect to be pretty tight. Kelly trying to hang on there. The other one to mention, too, is Nevada, where you've got Joe Heck, the Republican, has been running about even. He's trying to take that seat back from the Democrats, Josh.
All right. Crunching numbers for us in a secure and undisclosed location, albeit right there. Right there. Right over
secure, maybe.
There he is.
Disclosed, undisclosed, maybe not so much.
The elections director, Anthony Salvanto. That's some fanciness back there. The construction crews have been working day and night on that, as always. We'll be checking in with Anthony each and every day between now and November 8th.